The council chamber stretched wide and tall, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Minho sat at the human delegation table, his hands folded calmly on the smooth surface. Next to him, Hana reviewed data on her tablet, occasionally pushing her glasses up her nose. Behind them, Tejo stood in his military uniform, watching the alien ambassadors with careful eyes. Today was important. Earth wanted full membership in the Galactic Council. For 3 years, humanity had been provisional members, watched and tested. Now came the final review. Ambassador Velnara rose from her seat. She was tall, nearly 8 feet, her body made of what looked like living crystal that caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns. Her species, the Ixtlan, had been part of the Council for thousands of years. "We move now to biological compatibility assessment," Velnara announced, her voice like wind chimes. "Dr. Hana, please present your species' biological data." Hana stood and activated the holographic display. Charts and diagrams filled the air above the table. "Thank you, Ambassador. Humans are carbon-based life forms, average height between 5 and 6 feet. We have a lifespan of approximately 80 to 100 years with modern medicine. We breathe oxygen and require water. Our reproduction is sexual, requiring male and female genetic contribution. Gestation period?" asked a small, furry alien from the corner. 9 months, approximately," Hana answered. "And your breeding season?" Velnara asked. "How many offspring per cycle?" Hana blinked. "Breeding season? We don't have one. Humans can reproduce year-round. Usually 1 offspring per pregnancy. Sometimes 2 or 3. The chamber went silent. Minho looked up from his notes, sensing something wrong. Every alien in the room was staring at them. Some had stopped moving entirely. One ambassador's mouth hung open, showing rows of tiny teeth. Velnara's crystalline body flashed a deep red color. "Excuse me. Please repeat that." "Humans can reproduce throughout the year," Hana said slowly, confused by the reaction. "Any month. Any season. Is there a problem?" "You're lying." Velnara's voice cracked like breaking glass. She slammed her hand on her table, and the sound echoed through the chamber. "That's impossible. No species can breed all year." Minho stood quickly. "Ambassador Velnara, I assure you we're not lying. This is basic biology for us." "Basic biology," Velnara repeated, her color shifting to orange, then purple. "Do you understand what you're claiming? In all of Council history, across 47 member species, every single one has a breeding season, one specific time per planetary year, or every few years, when reproduction is possible." An ambassador that looked like a floating jellyfish spoke up, its voice bubbling. "My people breed once every 3 years. During the cooling season, the rest of the time, we are biologically incapable. My species has a 2-month period every year," added a scaled reptilian being. "Outside that time, our bodies simply do not function for reproduction. There is even a species among us who breeds only once per decade," Velnara continued. "But none, absolutely none, can breed continuously. It violates every principle of biological energy conservation." Hana's face flushed. "I don't know what to tell you. This is how humans work. It's normal for us." Tejo stepped forward. "If I may speak, Ambassador, is this really such a big issue? So our biology is different. That's why we're here. To share information." Velnara's body flashed red again. "Different? This isn't different. This is claiming to be a biological impossibility. Either your data is fabricated, or you're claiming to be superior to every other species in the galaxy." "Superior?" Minho felt anger rising in his chest but forced it down. "We're not claiming anything of the sort. We didn't even know this was unusual." "Convenient," muttered a voice from somewhere in the chamber. Velnara began pacing, her crystalline feet clicking on the floor. "For thousands of years, scientists have studied reproduction across species. The pattern is universal. Breeding seasons exist, because reproduction requires enormous energy. Bodies must prepare. Hormones must cycle. Resources must be gathered. To claim your species bypasses all of this. Constantly ready to reproduce, it suggests either deception or a biological advantage that borders on the obscene. Hana's face went pale. Are you suggesting we're lying to gain political advantage? What else am I to think? Velnara turned to face them. You want full council membership. You want access to our trade routes, our technology, our resources. And now you present data claiming your species has a reproductive capability that no other species possesses? How convenient for negotiations. Minho's jaw tightened. He'd been a diplomat for 15 years, and knew when to fight and when to de-escalate. This was spinning out of control fast. Ambassador, Earth has no reason to lie. We've been honest in all our dealings with the Council. Have you? Velnara's voice was sharp. Or have we simply not caught the lies yet? The chamber erupted in dozens of conversations. Aliens spoke to each other in various languages, their translation devices creating a cacophony of sound. Minho could hear words like impossible and fabricated, and genetic superiority floating through the noise. Teho leaned close to Minho's ear. Sir, this is bad. They think we're running some kind of scam. I know, Minho whispered back. He raised his voice. Ambassador Velnara, members of the Council, please. We can provide medical evidence, scientific data, whatever you need to verify our claims. Velnara raised one crystalline hand, and the chamber slowly quieted. Medical evidence from your own scientists? That proves nothing. You could have fabricated all of it. Then send your own scientists, Hana said, frustration clear in her voice. The Primarch, an ancient being who had been silent until now, spoke. His voice was deep and slow. That may be necessary, but understand, humans, that if you are found to be deceiving this council, Earth's application will be permanently rejected. You will be barred from council space, and all trade agreements will be terminated. Minho felt his stomach drop. Earth needed the council. Needed their technology, their protection, their resources. Humanity was still new to the galaxy, still vulnerable. Being cast out would be devastating. We understand, Primarch, Minho said, bowing his head. We welcome any investigation. The truth will prove our honesty. Velnara's color shifted to a cold blue. Very well. This council will appoint a biological research team. They will travel to human space and conduct independent studies. Until they report back, Earth's application for full membership is suspended. Suspended? Minho's voice cracked slightly. For how long? As long as it takes to prove or disprove your claims, Velnara said. And I warn you, humans, if this is a trick, if you think you can manipulate the Council with false biological superiority, you will regret it. The galaxy does not take kindly to liars. She sat down, her crystalline body now a dark, angry purple. The Primarch struck his gavel. This session is adjourned. The human delegation will cooperate fully with the research team. Dismissed. Doc. As the aliens filed out, many of them threw suspicious glances at the human table. Minho sat down heavily, running his hands through his hair. I can't believe this, Hana whispered. We're being investigated for telling the truth about basic human biology. Teho shook his head. They really think we're lying. All of them. Minho looked at the empty chamber and felt the weight of Earth's future on his shoulders. Everything depended on proving something he'd never questioned in his entire life. Something so normal, so basic, that until an hour ago, he'd never thought about it at all. Humans could have children any time of year. How could that simple fact threaten to destroy everything? The research ship arrived at the human colony 3 days later. It was massive, shaped like a spiral shell, and carried scientists from 12 different species. Hana watched it dock through the observation window, her arms crossed tight against her chest. They're treating us like criminals, she muttered. Minho stood beside her, his face tired. He hadn't slept well since the council session. They're treating us like unknowns. There's a difference. Barely, Hana said. The lead scientist was named Dax Rel, a being who looked like a walking tree, with bark-like skin and branches that moved like arms. He was old, maybe centuries old, and his movements were slow and deliberate. When he spoke, his voice rustled like leaves. "Dr. Hana," he said, inclining his trunk-like head, "I want you to understand. I do not come here with anger. I come with confusion. What you claim goes against everything we know, but I am a scientist. I follow evidence, not assumptions." Hana relaxed slightly. "Thank you. I appreciate that. However," Daxrel continued, "if your data is false, I will know. I have studied reproduction for 300 years. I know the signs of deception." "You won't find any deception," Hana promised. "Only truth." The tests began immediately. Hana had put out a call for volunteers, and 20 humans had agreed to participate. They were colonists, people who'd made the journey from Earth to build new lives in space, young and old, men and women, all willing to help prove humanity's case. The alien scientists set up their equipment in the colony's medical bay. Devices that Hana had never seen before hummed and blinked with strange lights. They took blood samples, tissue samples, and ran scan after scan. One of the volunteers was Yuna, a pilot in her late 20s. She sat patiently while a small, mouse-like alien drew her blood. "Is it true," Yuna asked, "that other species can only have babies at certain times?" The mouse-like scientist squeaked, and its translator responded, "Yes. For my people, it is during the warmth season. Our bodies change, our minds change. For 3 months, everything is about breeding. Then it stops, and we return to normal." "That sounds exhausting," Yuna said. "It is our way," the scientist replied. "We know nothing else." Daxrel studied the samples personally, his branch-like fingers moving over controls with surprising delicacy. Hana stood nearby, watching, answering questions when asked. On the second day, Daxrel called her over to his station. His bark skin had shifted to a pale color. "Dr. Hana," he said quietly, "I need you to explain this to me." He showed her a scan of a human ovary. Hana recognized it immediately. "What about it?" "This structure here." Daxrel pointed with a thin branch. "This is an egg preparing to release. Yes?" "Yes, that's right. Normal ovulation. And you say this happens when?" "About once a month. Every 28 days or so. Though it varies by individual." Daxrel was silent for a long moment. "Once a month," he repeated. 12 times per year." "More or less, yes." His branches trembled. "My species releases 1 egg per year, 1 opportunity for reproduction in 365 days. Most species here are similar. Some release an egg every 2 years, or 3. But you're telling me humans release 12? Hana nodded. "Is that a problem?" "A problem?" Daxrel's voice rose slightly, the first emotion she'd heard from him. "Dr. Hana, that means a human female has 12 times the reproductive opportunities of most species. Some volunteers here are showing signs of current fertility, others are not, but the tests show that within 1 month, the non-fertile ones will become fertile, and the fertile ones, after their current cycle, will become fertile again a few weeks later." "Right," Hana said. "That's normal human biology." "Normal," Daxrel whispered. He turned to the other scientists. "Gather everyone. I need to present these findings." An hour later, the entire research team assembled in the conference room. Daxrel stood at the front, projecting holographic images of the data. The alien scientists stared in silence as he explained what they'd found. "The humans are telling the truth," Daxrel said. "Their reproductive systems operate on a continuous cycle. Males are constantly producing reproductive cells. Females cycle approximately every month. There is no season, no environmental trigger. Their bodies are always ready." A jellyfish-like scientist floated forward. "But the energy cost. How do they survive?" "Reproduction is the most energy-intensive biological process. to maintain constant readiness, should drain them. Yet it doesn't, Daxrel said. Their bodies have adapted. The energy cost is spread across time instead of concentrated in one season. It's actually more efficient in some ways. More efficient? The jellyfish sounded horrified. They're not more efficient. They're more dangerous. Velnara was present via hologram, watching from the council station. Her crystalline form flashed orange. Explain. The jellyfish scientist turned toward her projection. Ambassador, consider the mathematics. If humans can breed continuously, what stops their population from exploding? Most species have natural controls. We can only reproduce once per year, or less. It limits our growth. But humans, they could, theoretically, have a child every year. Multiple children. Their population could grow at rates we've never seen. Velnara's color deepened to red. That's exactly what I feared. This isn't just unusual biology. This is a survival advantage that could overwhelm the galaxy. Wait, Hana stepped forward. That's not how it works in practice. Yes, we can biologically have children frequently, but we don't. Human culture, human choice, these things matter. Choice? The jellyfish scientist asked. You can choose not to breed during your fertile periods? Of course, Hana said. We have birth control, medicine that prevents pregnancy. We have family planning. Most humans choose to have only a few children in their lifetime, or none at all. The room fell silent again. This time, the silence felt different. Heavier. You can choose, Daxrel said slowly. Your biology makes you fertile, but you can refuse it? Without pain? Without difficulty? Hana suddenly realized what she'd revealed. Yes. Is that not normal for other species? No, Daxrel said. When my breeding season arrives, the urge is overwhelming. To resist causes physical and mental pain. We must breed or suffer. Choice is not part of the equation. The mouse-like scientist squeaked rapidly. Same for my people. The breeding urge is absolute. We have no choice, but humans do. Velnara said, her voice tight. You're telling me that not only can humans breed all year, but they can also choose when to breed? They have complete control over their own reproduction? Most of the time, yes, Hana said. Not complete control. Mistakes happen. But we have methods to manage it. Velnara turned away from the camera. This changes everything. Do you understand what you're saying? You have all the advantages of continuous reproduction, but none of the disadvantages. You can control when and how often you breed. You can choose to increase your population or decrease it based on resources and need. Minho spoke up. Ambassador, with respect, every species has advantages and disadvantages. This is just one aspect of human biology. Just one aspect? Velnara turned back sharply. Ambassador Minho, I'm beginning to understand why your species spread across your planet so successfully. Why you went from primitive tribes to global civilization in just 10,000 years. Most species take 100,000 years or more for similar development. Teho, who'd been quiet until now, spoke firmly. Are you saying we're too successful? That we should be punished for how our biology evolved? I'm saying, Velnara replied, that the Council needs to understand the full implications of accepting humanity as full members. We need to know what your population growth looks like. We need projections, data, everything. Daxrel rustled. I will compile a full report, Ambassador. But I must say, as a scientist, this is fascinating. Humans represent a completely different evolutionary path. Their biology challenges every assumption we've made about reproductive systems. Fascinating, Velnara said coldly. Or terrifying. I'm not sure which yet. She ended the transmission, and her hologram vanished. Hana sat down, suddenly exhausted. They're afraid of us. Yes, Minho agreed. They are. Because we can have babies whenever we want? Because they don't understand us. Minho said, "and people fear what they don't understand." Dax Rel approached them, his branches moving in what might have been a gesture of sympathy. "For what it's worth, I believe you're being honest. Your biology is real, but that may not be enough to calm the Council's fears." "Then what will be enough?" Hana asked. "I don't know," Daxrel said softly. "I truly don't know." Outside the window, stars glittered in the darkness. Somewhere among them was Earth, humanity's home. And somewhere else was the Council Station, where beings of crystal and scale and fur decided humanity's fate based on how often humans could have children. Hana had spent her life studying biology. She'd never imagined it would become a political crisis. The emergency council session was called 5 days after Daxrel submitted his report. Minho received the notification at 3 a.m. Colony time. The message was brief and formal, but he could read the urgency between the lines. By the time he reached the communication room, Hana and Teho were already there. So was Seho, Earth's cultural historian who'd been sleeping in the colony's archives when the call came through. "What's happening?" Seho asked, adjusting his glasses. He was older than the rest of them. Maybe 60. With gray streaking his black hair. "I don't know," Minho admitted. "But it can't be good." The holographic display activated, and suddenly they were looking at the council chamber. Every seat was filled. More than filled. Aliens stood in the aisles, crowded against walls, their attention focused on something at the center of the room. Chiex Mara stood there, an insectoid being with a hard shell that gleamed green under the lights. She was the council's chief mathematician and data analyst. In front of her floated a massive holographic chart. "Order," the Primarch called, his deep voice cutting through the noise. "We will have order." The chamber quieted. Chixmara's mandibles clicked together before she spoke. "Honored council members, I have completed my analysis of human population data. The results are deeply troubling." Minho felt his stomach clench. Chixmara gestured, and the chart expanded. It showed Earth's population over time. 2,000 years ago, the human population was approximately 300 million. 1,000 years ago, it was 400 million. A slow, steady growth consistent with species across the galaxy. She clicked to the next slide. But then, something changed. 500 years ago, human population was 500 million. 300 years ago, it reached 1 billion. 100 years ago, it was nearly 2 billion. And at the time of first contact with our scout ships 50 years ago, Earth's population was 8 billion. Gasps and shocked sounds filled the chamber. 8 billion, Chixmara repeated. From 1 billion to 8 billion in just 200 years. To put this in perspective, the fastest growing species in council records took 4,000 years to achieve similar growth. Humans did it in 200. Velnara stood, her crystalline body a dark, angry red. And now we know why. They breed all year round. They have 12 times the reproductive opportunities of normal species. This isn't just unusual. This is an invasion waiting to happen. "Invasion?" Seho spoke up from the colony. "We're not invading anyone." "Not yet," said a reptilian ambassador. "But what happens in 200 more years? What about 500? If your growth continues at this rate, humans will outnumber every species in the council combined." Chixmara clicked her mandibles. "I have run projections. If human population growth continues at historical rates, and if humans begin colonizing worlds at the same rate as other species, within 500 years, humans will represent 60% of the galactic population." The chamber erupted. Aliens shouted over each other. Some banged on tables. Others made sounds that the translators couldn't properly convert. "This is a conquest species," someone yelled. "They'll overwhelm us all. We should quarantine human space immediately." The Primarch struck his gavel repeatedly, but the noise continued. Minho watched in horror as decades of human diplomatic work crumbled in front of his eyes. Finally, the Primarch's voice boomed, amplified somehow. "Silence." The chamber went quiet. "We will discuss this rationally," the Primarch said. "Humans, you may defend yourselves. Minho stood, his legs shaky. Primarch, honored council members, this is all based on historical data. It doesn't account for modern human society. Explain, Velnara demanded. Seho stepped forward in the colony, moving into view of the camera. I'm Seho, human cultural historian. May I speak? The Primarch nodded. Seho took a breath. The population explosion you're seeing happened during a specific period in human history. We call it the Industrial Revolution. Suddenly, we had better food production, better medicine, lower infant mortality. More children survived to adulthood. More adults lived longer. The population grew rapidly. Proving our point, Chixmara said. With resources, humans multiply exponentially. But that growth has already stopped, Seho said urgently. Look at the data from the last 50 years. Earth's population has stabilized at around 8 billion. In some regions, it's actually declining. Chixmara checked her data, mandibles clicking rapidly. He's correct. Growth has slowed significantly in recent decades. Why? Asked the jellyfish scientist, floating in the chamber. If you have constant reproductive capability, why would growth slow? Choice, Hana said. We told you before. Humans choose how many children to have. As societies develop, as education improves, as people have more opportunities, they choose to have fewer children. I don't understand, Velnara said. You have the biological ability to have many offspring. Why would you choose not to? Because children require resources, Seho explained. Time, money, energy. In modern human society, people want to provide well for their children. They want to educate them, give them opportunities. Having fewer children means you can invest more in each one. A furry alien in the corner spoke up. But your biology drives you to reproduce. How can you resist that drive? Everyone. Our biology doesn't drive us the same way yours does, Hana said. We have urges, yes. But they're not overwhelming. They're manageable. We can think past them. This seemed to confuse many of the aliens. They looked at each other, mandibles clicking, crystals flashing different colors. Let me bring up a specific example, Seho said. He shared data from the colony. This is Nari, one of our colonists. She's agreed to be interviewed. A young woman appeared on screen, maybe 25 years old, with a bright smile. Behind her, 4 children of various ages played in a small apartment. Hello, Council, Nari said, bowing slightly. You have 5 children, Velnara observed. 4, Nari corrected. I'm one of 5 siblings. These are my brothers and sisters. Our parents had 5 children total. 5 offspring from one breeding pair, Chixmara calculated. Over what time period? Let me think. My oldest brother is 30. My youngest sister is 12. So about 18 years. 18 years, 5 offspring. Chixmara's mandibles clicked frantically. That's 1 offspring every 3.6 years. Well below biological maximum. Our parents wanted a big family, Nari said. Most humans don't. My friends back on Earth, most of them are only children. Or they have 1 sibling. Some don't want kids at all. Not want children? A scaled alien sounded shocked. But reproducing is the primary biological imperative. Nari shrugged. Maybe for you, for us, it's a choice. Some people really want to be parents. Others want to focus on careers, or art, or exploration. Both are okay. Velnara's color shifted to purple. The shade Minho had learned meant she was thinking hard. So despite having the capability to produce offspring constantly, humans voluntarily limit themselves. Yes, Nari said. We have medicine that prevents pregnancy, education about family planning, social support for different choices. It's not about what we can do biologically, it's about what we want to do. But what happens if you change your minds? Asked the reptilian ambassador. What if humans decide they want large populations again? Your capability is always there. Long, Seho spoke again. That's true for any species, isn't it? If your species decided to breed every single season without fail, your population would grow too. The difference is, you're limited by biology. We're limited by choice. Choice is less reliable than biology, Chixmara said. Is it? Siho challenged. Biology can be overridden. Medicine can change it. But choice, culture, these are powerful forces. They've shaped human history for thousands of years. Tejo added, we've had the biological capability for continuous breeding for all of human history. Yet we didn't overrun our own planet. We didn't destroy ourselves through overpopulation. We learned to manage it. You almost did destroy yourselves, Velnara pointed out. Your history is filled with wars over resources. Wars over resources, yes, Seho agreed. But not just because of population, because of inequality, politics, religion, greed, complex reasons. And we learned from those wars. We developed international cooperation, resource sharing, diplomacy, the same skills we're using now with you. The Primarch leaned forward. Yet the fear remains. If humans spread across the galaxy with their rapid reproductive capability, what stops them from overwhelming other species? Minho spoke firmly. The same thing that stopped us from overwhelming ourselves. Culture, ethics, law. We don't want to overwhelm anyone. We want to cooperate, to share space, to learn from other species. Words, Velnara said. Easy to say now, while you're few in number. What about when you outnumber us? Will you still cooperate then, or will you dominate? That's not who we are, Hana said. How can you be sure? Velnara asked. How can we be sure? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Nari spoke from the colony screen. Can I say something? The Primarch nodded. I came to this colony because I wanted to explore, Nari said. To see new things. Meet new people. Not to conquer or dominate. Just to learn and grow. Most humans feel the same way. We're not monsters. We're just people trying to live our lives. Yes, we can have kids whenever we want, but that doesn't define us. Our choices define us. Our actions define us. Give us a chance to prove that. Reezer. Her words, simple and honest, seemed to reach something in the council. The anger in the room cooled slightly. Not gone, but less intense. Velnara's color shifted to blue. Still cold, but thinking. The council will need time to consider this. The session is adjourned. As the hologram faded, Minho sat down heavily. Seho patted his shoulder. That went better than I expected, Seho said. Really? Minho asked. Because they still look ready to quarantine us. They're afraid, Hana said. But at least now they're listening. On the screen, Nari waved goodbye to her siblings. 5 children in one family, running and laughing. Not a threat. Just a family. Minho hoped the council could see that. He really hoped they could. Junho arrived at the colony a week after the council session. He was an evolutionary biologist from Earth, tall and thin with an energetic way of moving. He set up his presentation in the colony's main conference room while Minho, Hana, and the others watched. Are you sure about this? Minho asked. The council is already suspicious. If we push too hard, we have to help them understand, Junho interrupted. Fear comes from not knowing. If we can explain why humans evolved this way, maybe they'll stop seeing us as a threat. Sora, a young woman who served as Minho's assistant, brought in tea. The council members are connecting now, she said quietly. The holographic display activated, showing dozens of alien faces. Velnara was there. Her crystalline form a cautious yellow. Keeksmara clicked her mandibles. Dax Rel rustled his branches. And in the back, nearly invisible, sat Thalven, a reptilian philosopher that Minho had barely noticed before. Thank you for agreeing to this session, Junho said, bowing. I want to talk about evolution, specifically, why humans developed year-round breeding. I'm listening, Velnara said, her tone neutral. Junho brought up images of Earth. Every species evolves based on their environment. Where they live shapes how they survive. My people, the Ixtlan. You come from a world with extreme seasons, correct? Velnara's color brightened slightly. Yes. 6 months of heat, 6 months of cold, very little in between. And your breeding season coincides with the optimal temperature? Of course. Our young need specific conditions to survive. We breed when those conditions arrive. Exactly, Juno said. Your environment is predictable. Regular seasons, regular patterns. So your biology adapted to match that pattern. Makes sense, right? It's efficient, Velnara agreed. Now look at Earth. Junho changed the image. It showed the planet with its varied landscapes. Humans didn't evolve in one environment. We spread across the entire planet. Deserts, jungles, mountains, plains, frozen tundra, tropical islands, all different climates, all different seasons. Chixmara leaned forward. How does this relate to reproduction? In a desert, the best time to have a baby might be after the rare rains, Junho explained. In the Arctic, it might be during summer. In the jungle, there's no clear best season because food is available year-round. Humans lived in all these places. We couldn't evolve a single breeding season because there was no single optimal time. He brought up more images, showing early humans in different environments. So instead, we evolved the ability to breed whenever conditions were favorable. Whenever we had enough food, enough safety, enough resources, our bodies stayed flexible, ready to reproduce when opportunity arose. Daxrel rustled thoughtfully. That's actually quite logical. Without a predictable environment, a fixed breeding season would be a disadvantage. Exactly, Junho said. But there's more. Year-round breeding did something else for humans. It changed our social structure. Explain, the Primarch commanded. Junho pulled up diagrams of human families. When breeding is seasonal, what happens? For most of you, you have a specific time of year when mating occurs. The rest of the year, those urges are absent. Your social bonds are based on other things: territory, hierarchy, resource sharing. Correct, Velnara said. But humans bond through continuous sexual availability, Junho said. A human male and female who pair up. They can be intimate any time. This creates stronger, longer-lasting pair bonds. It keeps couples together not just for breeding season, but all year round. Which means better protection for offspring, better resource sharing, more stable families. The jellyfish scientist floated forward. Are you saying humans use reproduction for social bonding? Not just for producing offspring? Yes, Junho said. For humans, sex serves multiple purposes. Reproduction, yes, but also bonding, stress relief, pleasure, communication. It's woven into our social fabric. This caused some uncomfortable shifting among the alien council members. Thalven, the reptilian philosopher, spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and measured. Fascinating. For my people, mating is purely functional, a biological imperative during breeding season. The rest of the year, we barely think about it. But you're saying humans think about it constantly? And not constantly, Hana interjected. But regularly, yes. It's part of how we relate to each other. This explains much, Thalvin said slowly. I've studied human diplomatic records. You form alliances differently than other species. More personal connections. Less formal hierarchies. Junho nodded eagerly. Yes. Because our social bonding isn't tied to breeding season, we can form stable relationships year-round. We can cooperate, collaborate, build communities, without waiting for a specific time of year. Chixmara's mandibles clicked rapidly. Let me understand. Most species have a breeding season. During that season, aggression increases dramatically as we compete for mates. Violence, territory disputes, social chaos. It's the most dangerous time of our year. And after the season ends? Junho asked. We return to normal. Calm, rational, cooperative. But that chaos happens every year, Junho said. Like clockwork. Your entire society has to prepare for it. Manage it. Recover from it. It's the natural order, Kixmara said. For you, yes. But humans don't have that cycle. We don't have a war season, driven by biological imperative. Our aggression, when it happens, is for political reasons, economic reasons, ideological reasons, not because our biology forces us to compete for mates once a year. Velnara's color shifted to a thoughtful purple. Are you saying humans are less aggressive because you can breed all year? In some ways, yes, Junho said. We spread our mating behavior across the year instead of concentrating it. There's no single period where every human male is trying to compete for every human female. It's more gradual, more manageable. Thalven stood up slowly. Council members, I must share something. For the past month, I've been reviewing records of human diplomatic interactions. Specifically, I looked at when those interactions occurred in relation to our various species' breeding seasons. And, the Primarch asked, humans have been unconsciously accommodating our seasonal mood changes, Thalven said. When my people enter breeding season, we become aggressive, territorial, difficult to negotiate with. Human diplomats during those times became more patient, more yielding, offering more compromises. I thought they were weak. Now I realize they were being strategic. Sora leaned over to Minho. Were we doing that? I don't know, Minho whispered back. Maybe? Thalven continued. The same pattern appears with other species. During the Ixalan breeding season, human trade negotiations stalled. Humans waited patiently for the season to end, then resumed talks. During the Quix breeding season, humans avoided military discussions. They adapted to our biological cycles without even being asked. Because we don't have those cycles ourselves, Hana said. We can stay emotionally stable while you're going through biological changes. We didn't even realize we were doing it. Velnara was silent for a long moment. Her crystalline body shifted through several colors before settling on a soft blue. My breeding season ended 2 weeks ago. Before that, I was aggressive, suspicious, seeing threats everywhere. I accused you of lying because I was in the grip of biological imperatives I couldn't control. But you never got angry, never retaliated. You just waited patiently for me to calm down. We thought you didn't trust us, Minho said. I didn't. I couldn't. My biology wouldn't let me, Velnara said. But you understand now? For most species, there are times when we are not ourselves. When biology controls us completely. You humans, you're always yourselves. You're always in control. Not always, Hana said honestly. We have our own biological influences, hormones, stress, hunger. But you're right that we don't have a season where everything else shuts down. Daxrel rustled loudly. This is extraordinary. I've been studying reproduction for centuries, and I never considered the social implications. We always focused on the mechanics of breeding, not on how it shapes society. It shapes everything, Junho said. Look at your council itself. It has specific times of year when major decisions are made, correct? Times when important votes happen? Yes, the Primarch confirmed. We schedule around breeding seasons. When too many species are in their breeding period, we pause, council business. Humans don't need that, Junho said. We can work year-round. We can be consistent, reliable, stable. Not because we're superior, but because our biology allows it. Thalven's eyes gleamed. You're not a threat. You're a stabilizing force. A species that can mediate when others can't. That can maintain diplomatic relationships during times when other species are biologically incapable of doing so. I wouldn't go that far, Minho said cautiously. But it's true. Thalven insisted. Think about it, Council. How many wars have started because two species entered breeding season simultaneously? How many treaties have failed because negotiators were in the grip of mating fever? Too many, the Primarch admitted. But humans could help prevent that, Thalven said. They could serve as mediators, as stable points in our seasonal chaos. Not because they're controlling us, but because they're not controlled by the same cycles. Velnara's color brightened to a warm yellow. I see it now. When I accused you of lying, of claiming superiority, I was wrong. You're not superior. You're different. And that difference could actually help the council. We just want to cooperate, Minho said. To learn from you and share what we know. And you can do that regardless of what time of year it is, Kixmara said, her mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. While the rest of us are dealing with biological imperatives, you humans just keep working. Is that so bad? Hana asked. No, Velnara said softly. Perhaps it's exactly what the council needs. Thalvin sat back down, looking satisfied. I will be presenting a full report to the council recommending humanity's acceptance, not despite your unusual biology, but because of it. Seconded, Daxrel rustled. Junho looked stunned. He'd come to explain. He hadn't expected to win allies, but as the council members began discussing among themselves, their tones more positive, more curious, Minho felt hope for the first time in weeks. Maybe being different wasn't a threat after all. Maybe it was exactly what the galaxy needed. The final council session was scheduled for 3 weeks after Junho's presentation. Minho didn't sleep the night before. He stood at the colony's observation window, watching stars drift past, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. Hana found him there at dawn. You should rest, she said. Can't, Minho replied. Everything depends on today. We've done all we can, Hana said. Now it's up to them. Teho joined them, already in his uniform despite the early hour. The transport is ready. We should head to the council station. The journey took 6 hours. When they arrived, the station was more crowded than Minho had ever seen it. Ships from across the galaxy filled the docking bays. Outside the council chamber, hundreds of aliens gathered, some holding signs in various languages. Those are protests, Teho said quietly, reading the translations. Both for and against us. One group of crystalline beings held signs saying, accept diversity. Another group of insectoid aliens had signs reading, protect the galaxy. A cluster of furry creatures waved flags with Earth's image, crossed out. They're scared of us, Hana whispered. Some are, Minho agreed. But not all. Inside the chamber, the tension was thick enough to cut. Every council seat was filled, and the gallery above was packed with observers. Minho took his place at the human delegation table, Hana and Teho beside him. Sora sat behind them, her hands clasped tightly. The Primarch entered, his ancient form moving slowly to the central podium. The chamber fell silent. We gather today to render final judgment on Earth's application for full council membership, the Primarch announced. This decision has proven more complex than any in recent memory. We will hear testimony, then vote. Velnara stood first. Her crystalline body was a soft, blue, calm, and clear. Primarch, council members, I wish to speak. Proceed, Ambassador Velnara. She turned to face the chamber. 3 weeks ago, I stood here and accused the humans of lying. I believed their claims about year-round breeding were fabricated to gain advantage. I was wrong. Murmurs spread through the chamber. I was wrong, Velnara repeated. Because I was in the grip of my breeding season. For 2 months, my biology controls me. I become paranoid, aggressive, seeing threats everywhere. I cannot think clearly. I cannot trust properly. And yet, we treat this as normal, as natural, as acceptable. She paused, her color shifting slightly darker. The humans never retaliated against my accusations. They never demanded apologies. They simply waited patiently for my season to end. Then continued trying to help me understand. That is not the behavior of conquerors. That is the behavior of diplomats, who understand biological realities better than I did. Chixmara stood next. I analyzed human population data and predicted they would overwhelm the galaxy. I was partially correct about their growth potential, but I failed to account for human culture and choice. Humans have proven capable of self-regulation without biological limits. This is not a weakness. It's a strength. Daxrel rustled to his feet. I've spent 300 years studying reproduction. I thought I understood the fundamental principles of biological life. Humans have shown me I was working with incomplete data. Their biology challenges every assumption I've made, and that's valuable. Science grows through challenges, not through confirmation of existing beliefs. Thalvin stood, his reptilian form moving with dignity. Philosophy teaches us to question our assumptions. For thousands of years, we've assumed that seasonal breeding was the only viable evolutionary path. We built our societies, our cultures, our very understanding of civilization around this assumption. Humans prove that assumption wrong. They show us a different path, one that emphasizes choice over biological imperative. He looked directly at Minho. Some fear this difference, but I say we should celebrate it. The Council has become too similar in thinking. All of us bound by the same biological cycles, experiencing the same seasonal madness, making the same mistakes. Humans offer us something new, a perspective we've never had. Stability, when we have chaos. Rationality, when we have biological imperative. A small, furry alien stood up in opposition. But what of the danger? Their population could still grow beyond control. Could, Thalvin agreed. But will it? They've had this capability for their entire evolutionary history. They didn't destroy their own planet. They learned to manage themselves. Why do we assume they'll lose that ability in space? Because resources in space are unlimited, another alien argued. On their planet, they were constrained. In the galaxy, they could spread forever. Seho stood from the human table. May I respond? Primarch? The Primarch nodded. You're right that space has more room, Seho said. But humans don't want to just spread endlessly. We want to explore. Yes. To settle new worlds. Yes. But we also want to preserve what we find. To learn from other cultures. To be part of something larger than ourselves. That's why we applied to the Council. Not to conquer it, but to join it. A jellyfish-like being floated forward. What happens when you outnumber us? When human voices drown out ours in Council votes? The same thing that should happen in any democracy, Minho said, standing. We listen to minority voices. We protect them. We build systems that ensure everyone has representation, not just the majority. Earth learned this lesson through painful history. We made mistakes. We had tyrannies, genocides, oppression. But we learned. We built better systems. We can help you build safeguards into Council procedures if you're worried about majority rule. The Primarch raised his hand. These are important concerns. But we must vote. The question before us is simple. Do we grant Earth full Council membership? Or do we deny it? Velnara spoke again. Before the vote, I want to add something. My people have a saying, different stones build stronger walls. We've been building with the same stones for too long. Perhaps it's time to try something new. The Ixalan delegation votes yes, she declared. The Quix delegation votes yes, Kixmara clicked. One by one, aliens stood and announced their votes. Some voted yes. Some voted no. The count was close, painfully close. Minho's heart pounded as the numbers climbed. 47 species in the Council, 24 votes needed to pass. 20 votes yes, 18 votes no, 9 species left to vote. The furry alien who'd argued against them stood. The Peltharian delegation votes. Yes. But with conditions. End. Minho's breath caught. 4 more voted yes. 3 voted no. 1 species remained. 24 yes. 21 no. They needed 1 more. The last species was one Minho barely knew. A being made of what looked like living water. Constantly shifting and flowing. They'd been silent through all the debates. The water being spoke. Its voice like waves on a shore. The Aquarian delegation has listened to all arguments. We are a species that exists in constant flow, never fixed, always changing. We understand what it means to be different from the standard biological model. We vote yes. 25 votes yes. They'd done it. The chamber erupted. Some aliens cheered. Others protested loudly. The Primarch struck his gavel repeatedly until order returned. The motion passes, the Primarch announced. Earth is granted full council membership, subject to the following conditions. Minho held his breath. First, Earth will establish educational programs teaching other species about human reproductive biology and culture. Second, Earth will participate in a cultural exchange program, sending human diplomats to live among other species, and vice versa. Third, Earth will submit annual population reports to the Council for the next 50 years. Fourth, Earth will assist in developing safeguards against majority rule in Council procedures. We accept all conditions, Minho said quickly, before anyone could object. The Primarch nodded. Then it is done. Welcome to the Galactic Council, humanity. This time, the applause was louder than the protests. Hana grabbed Minho's hand, squeezing tight. Teho stood at attention, his face proud. Sora wiped tears from her eyes. As the session ended and aliens began filing out, Velnara approached the human delegation. Her crystalline form was now a warm, golden yellow. Ambassador Minho, she said, bowing her head. I owe you an apology. A proper one. You already apologized in your testimony, Minho said. That was to the council. This is to you personally, Velnara said. I treated you badly. I let my biology control my judgment. I'm sorry. We understand, Hana said. Really, we do. We didn't realize how much your breeding seasons affected you. Most species don't talk about it, Velnara admitted. It's embarrassing to admit we lose control. But you humans, you just accepted it. No judgment. No condemnation. Just patience. Everyone has biological challenges, Minho said. Ours are just different. Velnara's color brightened. I've been thinking. My people study crystalline structures and energy patterns. But we've never really studied biology outside our own species. I'd like to come to Earth, if you'll have me. I want to learn about your biodiversity, your evolutionary history. I think there's much we can teach each other. Hana's face lit up. Really? That would be amazing. Earth has millions of species, all with different reproductive strategies. Some breed seasonally, some year-round, some in incredibly strange ways. Strange is good, Velnara said. Strange means learning. I'm tired of only knowing what's familiar. Thalvin approached, bowing to them. Congratulations. You've changed the council, whether you realize it or not. We just told the truth, Minho said. And sometimes, truth is revolutionary, Thalvin replied. For thousands of years, we assumed our way was the only way. You've shown us that's false. It will take time for everyone to accept it. But change has begun. Later, standing at the observation window of the council station, Minho looked out at Earth's distant star. It was just a point of light from here, one among billions. But it was home. Hana joined him. We did it. We did, Minho agreed. All because humans can have babies whenever we want, Hana said, then laughed. It's absurd when you think about it. Most of life is absurd, Minho said. We just lived through aliens having an existential crisis over human fertility cycles. Teho walked up behind them. You know what's funny? I heard some aliens talking as they left. They were discussing human endurance, running, how we can run for hours while most species can only sprint. Oh no, Hana said. Apparently it's another thing that shouldn't be biologically possible, Teho continued. They're very concerned about it, Minho groaned. We're not doing this again. Too late, Teho grinned. I heard someone say they're forming a committee to investigate human athletic capabilities. Let them, Hana said. At least this time we know we're weird. We can get ahead of it. Minho smiled despite himself. Humanity had just taken its place among the stars. Not through conquest or domination, but through being exactly what they were. Different. Strange. Uniquely human. And somehow, that had been enough. Far below, ships from dozens of worlds came and went, carrying people and goods and ideas across the galaxy. One day soon, human ships would join that flow. Human voices would add to the Council's debates. Human families would grow up knowing aliens as neighbors and friends. All because humans could have children any time of year. Minho shook his head. The galaxy was a strange place, but then again, so was humanity. Maybe they'd fit in just fine.